and welcome to No Blue Suits. I am one of your co-hosts, Abby Shepherd, and I'm here with my other co-host, Stu Pringle.
Hey everyone, thanks Abby. I'm looking forward to today's discussion.
And our last host, Mark Jones.
Hello. I'm also excited. Can't wait.
In today's episode, we are going to be talking about customers, and we're going to be answering the question, what do your customers actually buy from you? So surely, chaps, this is a nice, easy one. They buy products and services, no?
Oh, Abby, we have much to discuss. It's just, yeah, do you know what? Yes, it is. It is just products and services if you want to be the cheapest. If you are the Ryanair model and you want to sell seats for $9.99, then the advert says seats for $9.99. Job done.
Cool. That's the end of the episode. Everybody's just got to be the cheapest and we can head out.
Yeah, exactly. It's transactional.
Yeah.
The point is if it's a transactional sale driven by price, then come out in front and be like that. If you're anything else than that, then the answer is no. Because if you are selling premium skills or a premium product, premium service, or a new technology or a new way of working, if you just list out what it does, the big trap you're going to fall into is you end up in a transactional conversation.
Yeah.
Well, how much is it? You're there within seconds. And if you're there within seconds, you're probably lost. So one of the things that we do a lot of work in is steering people away from starting with that sort of product list.
Yeah.
It's really key.
What other traps do people fall into when they're talking about their products and services?
Yeah, there's quite a few. One of the biggest ones is what I like to call show up and throw up. So what I mean by that is you meet someone who is part of the core founding team, early employee, the founder themselves, and they are so proud of what they do and so desperate to tell you that they are, and also they typically are quite analytical of mind, that they need to tell you everything and all the depth and all the technicolor immediately, because otherwise you might not get it. And it's a bit much to be on the receiving end of it. It's like I barely know your name and you're kind of into line 8 of the description of what the business does. It's like, oh, this is quite a lot to take in. Can you just give me the basics? So again, reeling off a detailed list of products and services is like the worst way to start.
So is what the customers are actually buying is kind of a result
Yeah.
or a job that needs to be done.
Yeah, and look, there's lots of nuance here. There comes a point in the discussion where you have to get down to the brass tacks of what's in the statement of work, what's in the RFP. But certainly in those early conversations, people are just typically trying to figure out, can you make my day easier? Can you solve this problem? Have you done it before? Do you understand it? Have you worked with other people like me? And do you know my world? Because people are quite selfish,
Yeah.
They're like, we all want to get our week done. We all want to get home. So the first things first is, do you get my world? Have you worked with other people like me? Can you solve this problem? And that's kind of like first base. What we marketers would call the buyer journey. What normal people would be like, well, can you just give me the intro? Tell me this is relevant. And I think it's really important to have that understanding, and it's really difficult to let go, particularly if you've been doing it a long time, of just that standard sort of services pitch, because it feels really uncomfortable.
Yeah. So is what you're kind of selling to them in that initial, especially in those initial conversations, is trust. So you're showing that you can deliver a result that is going to make their life easier because of the way that you understand their world. And then what you're actually selling to them, well, that's what they're buying, but what you're selling to them is like, trust me to do this job that needs to be done.
I think one thing that people hate is being sold to as well. So I
Yeah.
think especially if you've ever walked into a shop and someone's there to greet you and they smell of sales. Can I help you with anything? You just sort of stepped in the door, and that's where you start finding the resistance. When
Yeah.
there's a sale to be done, much better to lead with something soft and broad and exposing the gap between where you are now and where you want to be, and offering a more gentle, curiosity-led way in. And your offering is further down in the journey. I find it, you want to have something more general in those early conversations. Otherwise, you can sometimes get that whole show up and throw up's a great way of putting someone right off because you've just gone so deep into the technical. I think Brits in general, as a broad stroke, we don't like that.
Yeah.
So you have to prepare your messaging and your offering in a sort of breadcrumbed way so you can build to that. But totally, when you're shopping around looking for a cleaner, they're cleaning your house, but you are potentially buying the feeling of walking into a clean home and enjoying the space, your children, your partner. If you're going to the gym, you're buying feeling comfortable in your own skin and those things. You're not just renting the dumbbells for half an hour. Well, you technically are. There's something beyond that, and I think that's it's harder to get to than we do X, Y, and Z. But I think that is really what people are wanting to buy, especially the discerning people.
Yeah.
There's got to be more. If you've got 5 or 6 tabs open on Google and you're comparing like for like, how are you going to make choices? If it comes down to a features list and the checkbox is the same, typically price.
Yeah.
And then it's things like fit. You've got your sort of mental checklist of like, right, what hoops have I made for you? There's a little bit of being introspective of your own buying behaviors and labeling them as you go through and being like, oh, when I was throwing that dinner and I was on Waitrose versus Sainsbury's, what was that belief I'd made for myself? And then when you sort of come to do your own work, you sort of think, okay, this is a Sainsbury's moment. This is a Waitrose moment. What am I? Where am I?
Because I think that's the thing. I think trust is a key word, but opening it up a bit, a business decision is surprisingly emotional.
Yeah.
And what I mean by that is that it can actually be a really big decision if you decide to take on a new supplier or be the first mover on a new technology or decide to work with a new recruitment partner, whatever the third party is providing. This could have massive reputational risk. It could have massive personal risk on your own career. The stakes are really high. So again, if what you're presented with is a whole bunch of options, and there will be a bunch of options typically that are the checklist, that Excel table of stuff, and a price at the bottom, you're not going to stand out if you're sort of competing in the same way. Whereas if instead you sort of take them on that journey and say, well, actually, it's passing what I call the so what test. So what we can enable is smarter decision making, de-risking, improving safety, moving faster, saving money here, engaging with local supply chain there, whatever those myriad of things are. That could be the difference between being shortlisted and not against the market. And what's really interesting is it's what we're not doing is we're not interfering with your product, with your service. It's just about how it's positioned. It's not about saying actually no, the widget is wrong or the consultancy is not done in the best way. None of that. It's just that sort of emotional kind of tractor beam in of whether or not I should shortlist this against the competition. And I think most businesses don't want to be in that transactional price war place. And certainly, being upfront, none of the businesses that we would work with are in that space because that's not what we're set up to do. To help with that. So it does feel uncomfortable. And I think the other part, excuse me, about this is it's also important in those early stages not just to be talking about yourself. So you've done that, to Mark's point, the breadcrumbs of the initial kind of teasers. Then you really want to get the prospect talking about themselves. You want to do that discovery and find out, specifically what their needs are before you start presenting how you kind of line up against that. Because if you go in too early, again, you're in danger of just being generic. It's like the second bit of show up and throw up. So you have to find out. You have to find out what's relevant to the buyer, because unless it's a real edge case in new technology, you're probably going to be up against significant competition. And we used to say it's a quick Google away. Now it's a voice note to Claude, and or your LLM of choice, and very quickly the rest of the market is in the picture.
Yeah, absolutely. And we often see, right, with the sector that we're in, B2B in general, but the sector that we're in, especially with technical founders and technical marketing teams, that you often have competing priorities when you're in that discovery phase, right? So you'll have potentially a technical evaluator, but then you've also got a commercial decision maker too. So they might want completely different things out of this end result. How would you square that circle when you're in that discovery phase?
Yeah, I just need to call it out. Need to find out what's important to them. I think you have to be brave and keep asking the questions, keep probing. Don't sort of do that polite kind of, oh yeah, okay, that's good, take your little bit of information away. Like keep pushing. Well, what would happen if you did, ask the questions. What would happen if you did nothing? What's the financial impact of that? How does that impact the timeline of the project? Well, who else have you got who can do this? Really go for it, because that you're not going to, I have a phrase I use a lot about letting go of the status quo. You're not going to let the buyer let go of their status quo unless you prove that there's some real pain. So you've got to take your moment in those conversations.
So that's new customers, right? But how do you identify kind of the true reasons why customers buy from you with your current client base?
Oh, first of all, keep talking to them is the first thing. The worst thing you can do is assume. Yeah, assumptions are the danger. So I think keep talking to them, get those peer reviews, take those moments between RFPs to find out what's going on in their business. Listen to them. It shouldn't be all you talking at them. You should get their views and get the views of the user as well as the buyer, because typically the person who books you is not often the same person who's then using your kit. So I think that's definitely the first bit. I think the other bit is, you touched on RFPs earlier. Something that I see a lot is people say, well, this is all very good, Stu, but the RFP comes down to price. And I think we have to recognize there are some RFPs which are very heavily price weighted. And with those, there is perhaps less we can do about those because of the nature of the beast. But there will still be opportunities to influence the conversation through previous relationships, network, the relationship you have with that company. It's very rare that an RFP is 100% on price. If you can prove that you can deliver on other goals that are key to that business, again, you have to ask that business what's important. How in terms of the project map, does this impact other parts of the life cycle? Is there a safety factor to this? Is there other risks that can be mitigated through your approach that perhaps others wouldn't be able to take on? So there is always a conversation beyond the price. And also, which price? The price of this particular scope, or the 10x price of fixing it when the scope goes badly? So I think there's definitely potential to open up the conversation, even when it's that kind of heavy price weighting in the initial phases.
So it's not, so even when it's about price, it's not always just about price, right? Is what we're saying.
Exactly.
If you're a team or a founder that sort of suspects that some of these issues that we've talked about might be present, how would you spot them? How would you fix them?
So, okay, how would you spot them? I think there are some really key tells. The first is, are you bored talking through your own slides? Because if you are, I'm pretty sure the person at the other end is also pretty bored about what's going on. So if you're not excited about it, they ain't excited about it. I would say the second thing is, if your font size on your slide is getting down below 14, you're showing up and throwing up. You are saying too much.
MJ, do you agree with that, with your creative hat on? Do you want to up that to 16?
No, design is seen as like the thing you slap on after the hard work is done. You just put a little bit of pop on it, and away it goes.
Get the crayons out, MJ.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and it's amazing how much that can derail you, because then you start reading from a script and it stops feeling like you understand your topic, because then you're looking at like a reference. And B, it's interesting how much, like, the eyes are hungry, right? Eyes want to go where the stuff is. So if your slide is full of stuff, that person's eyes are going to kick in and their ears are going to switch off, and they're going to start reading ahead and all those sorts of things. You can inadvertently make a bit of rod for going back by doing the fluffy thing, not giving it the TLC it needs, and sort of working to refine it. You can end up just becoming unstuck, really. Yeah, I can see that catching a lot of people out. Yeah, that's where the power of the brand and the guidelines come in, because then you've got something to work with. Whereas if you're just throwing up a basic presentation together, you can easily look amateur.
That's so true. People are not listening to you when they're reading a dense slide, and you can be saying something absolutely amazing, but it ain't landing.
They're distracted.
Yeah. Okay, so my first one was, is it boring? My second one, is it too many words? My third one, serious one, is the so what test. So if your introduction says things like, well, we design foundations for offshore wind, or it says we provide personnel for geoscience inspections, offshore reps, well, both of those I would say, well, so what? What I mean is that, so what does that enable? So instead of saying that it's about de-risking one of the most expensive parts of an offshore wind project, or finding the critical skills to make sure that your investment in that boat and the rest of the crew is looked after. So there's we're not changing the service, we're just changing how it's positioned emotionally to the buyer, to point out, actually, this stuff is really bloody important, and you want to trust us and you want to work with us to get it right, because you'll be in a happy place on the other side. And if you don't get this right, you're not going to be in a happy place. Now, we don't want to negative sell overly. I don't like that. I don't think that's a good tactic. But I think we do definitely want to draw a thick line between working with us and benefiting your project, benefiting your, what you're doing in your role, making you look good, helping your team, helping, everyone in your kind of supply chain, in your wider circuit.
Yeah.
So, it might sound like a bit like marketing puff, but it's actually really, really impactful. And there's any number of studies out there that will show, and our own work with our own clients also shows this, that you're more likely to get on decision-making shortlists, you're more likely to advance faster, you're more likely to get a premium fee for your services, and better retention. So a little bit of thinking about this can massively impact the commercials of a business. And it can be really subtle. One of the early pieces of work that we did, that MJ and I did when we kind of set the business up, was working with Empire Engineering, and the strapline on their website to this day is, every project needs a strong foundation. And it sets you off on that journey about how important it is to have the right designer on your offshore wind project. But it doesn't say, we are offshore wind designers. Blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
And it's just these little subtleties, these little emotional triggers can have such a massive impact on the rest of the conversation.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's probably all we've got time for. All we've got time for, folks. But the takeaway here is those three things I think you just said, Stu. Is look at your decks, look at your collateral, look at your website. Is it show up and throw up? Are you bored reading it yourself? And be honest about that. I think it's difficult to be objective about those things because, you know, we work with a lot of teams, a lot of founders who are very smart and put a lot of effort and passion into their work. So be honest with yourselves, and then the so what test.
Yep.
Yeah, exactly what you just described, Stu. From a customer's point of view, so what do all these things mean for them? What result will we be giving them at the end of it? Thank you very much for your time, peeps, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you.
Cool. Have a good one.